Rosemary Rotondi, I think almost needs no introduction. She is, there's nobody better, I think, in the field of archival research. Her credits are amazing. Off the top of my head, let me think. Attica, Citizenfour, Inside Job, the recent John and Yoko
One
documentary.
to one, John and Yoko.
Yeah, what
Amazing.
other ones do you want to mention, Rosemary?
Well, currently on HBO is One to One, John and Yoko by director Kevin McDonald. And I worked on that. And there's also several HBO documentaries on which I work that are free on demand, such as the Last Call series by Story Syndicate, which is still available. It's a three-part series about a serial killer, a gay serial killer that was stalking New York City for about 25 years straight. That remains on HBO. But on Showtime is Stanley Nelson's Attica, and that was nominated for Best Documentary Feature in the 2022 Academy Awards. And I'm very proud of that film and was the lead researcher and archival producer for that. And currently, I'm working on Sam Pollard's new feature documentary that will premiere in Tribeca in June, I think on June 5th or 4th. And it's called The Lorraine. And it's about the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, that was owned by an African American couple named Walter and Loree Bailey, and about how post tragic assassination of Martin Luther King at the Lorraine, the motel went on the skids. People stopped staying there. It used to be very popular with political activists, Stax, Stax performers and musicians, and people. Aretha Franklin used to have like a mini apartment there, and it went downhill after the assassination. So it was bankrupt and it was going on auction. And it got bought by a group of people that got together to save it. And it's now the National Civil Rights Museum. So it's about that transformation.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of your job, um, how did you get into it? I mean, did you always want to be an archival researcher? Did you ever want to be a filmmaker? I mean, when was the moment you realized, oh, this is for me?
Well, I moved from Boston to New York City to attend, to get my master's in cinema studies from NYU. And I'd always wanted to live in New York City. And I think the most I aspired to at that point was maybe getting a job at HBO. And I didn't even think of archival research. I don't think I understood what it was at all. And then luckily enough, it was really fate. The Institute of Contemporary Art, where I'd worked in Boston for a few years, they had a deal with a Creative Television Lab at WGBH every Friday night, which was an incredible thing. And after I was about to graduate, and they called and they said, "We need somebody to do archival research for a experimental documentary filmmaker named Daniel Reeves. And could you do that for us?" And I was like, "What is archival research?" And so they told me what needed to be done, and it sounded really fun and really interesting. And there was so many archives available, in New York City that I could visit on site. And that's how I got into it. I fell into it. It was absolutely fate. And then I loved it. I loved the experience and I continued to work in it. But to support myself for several years, because it took a long time to get a footing, I would temp. I was a temporary secretary at the Time and Life building for many, many years to support myself. So it just grew very slowly. And
So, oh, sorry.
no, I got to be a part of what seemed to be like a golden age of documentaries too, you know.
Um, for those who might want to get into archival research now as a career, Uh, how would they go about it? I mean, it sounds like you almost lucked into it, but
Yeah.
if you actually have that as a goal, what do you recommend they do?
Well, I'm thinking Sheila's here and she'll probably back me up on this, but it isn't a straight line getting into it because no college or university that I know of teaches it as a career path. It may be that they'll have somebody like me or Maddie or Sheila teach a class, once a semester in it to their students. I would suggest getting involved, like signing up for the D-Word, UnionDocs, any documentary organization that you can be a part of it. I would, read documentary magazines. I would be a member of IDA, Film Independent. I would start attending things. I would start attending seminars and conferences like Footage Fest and things like that. And, you know, that's the only way I could think of getting into it because it's just not a straight arrow manner to get into it. And, what another thing I would suggest is perhaps even getting a job at an archive, such as Getty Images or something, and seeing how it works from the inside, and that maybe they would have a connection to filmmakers that way and getting a paid internship also at places like productions companies like Jigsaw, Story Syndicate, things like that. You'll be on site of where there's great documentaries being made, and you will pick up experience that way. So that's what I think is probably the best thing to do at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just add that beyond shamelessly self-promoting in the chat, the D word has a classifieds topic where people
Yes.
post, that they're looking for work. So I suggest
Yes.
that as well. So for those who might not know, how do you distinguish between what an archival producer does and an archival researcher? And I know that you tend to do more archival research.
Yes. Archival research is we're handling all of the visual needs for the film and, supporting the film by digging into archives for photographs, headlines, articles, footage, audio, things like that, and working on the documentary and using the filmmakers, directors, and producers' visual needs lists, and getting them everything that they need, and also making suggestions. Like if there's something that I see that may help the subject matter be fleshed out more, I will include that as well for the filmmakers to view. And then archival producer, I will handle the licensing, oversee the licensing process after the picture is locked.
And you love doing that, don't you?
Oh God. And that is really for me, like, the buzzkill part of every single production. But everybody at the archives with whom I work are really great people. It's wonderful, but it's really, tough money wise for the filmmakers, especially at this time that so many have lost, access to Corporation of Public Broadcasting, the National Endowment for the Arts, National Endowment for the Humanities. I mean, I've had projects I thought I would work on for a year that do their own fundraising to make up for the loss of the grant they were expecting. And yeah, so you try to like negotiate the best rates for the filmmakers and gather like comparison rates, like for the new Sam Pollard film on which I'm working. I am gathering not only film festival worldwide 1 year rates against all media in worldwide in perpetuity rates. And just see if it's just a little difference between both of them, we'll naturally go for the worldwide in perpetuity. But sometimes the difference is such that can't, the budget just can't hold going for worldwide in perpetuity all the time. So, there's things like that that are, they're hard. They're
Yeah,
sad to
I
talk
was going
about.
to save this for later, but it seems to come, sometimes in the flow of what you bring up, I'll ask something like, where does fair use fit into this, and how do you distinguish between something that you might go back to the filmmaker and say this is going to cost you a lot of money versus I think you might have a fair use case? Do you tend to get into those kinds of judgments, or do you just say go see your entertainment lawyer?
I tend to do the latter because we archival researchers, we don't have a law degree in fair use. I mean, at this point, our experience is such that we can kind of guess what might work as fair use, but really the fair use lawyer has the final word always. And also there's things like I'm looking for the source and the owner of a specific piece of footage or photo, and you can't find them, no matter how hard you try. So those are things like you'll put forth about, is this possible to have this for use? But everything, is contingent on if you're hitting the four pillars of fair use legally and how it's edited and is it making, comments and things like that. So yeah, that's really something for the fair use lawyer, which like myself, they should be involved almost from the beginning of the start of the documentary.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
how early do you typically come on? And as opposed to, I mean, ideally you'd want to come on
Sure.
as early as possible, but generally speaking, how
Yeah.
early do you get hired?
In the best way, from the right the beginning, from the beginning. And it's really tough when people come to you at the end and say that, I have all of this stuff that needs to be licensed and I need to also replace this, and this. And I've put aside a week in my budget for this to happen. And also, I had this great intern that did a lot of the research. So, you know, and then invariably you find out that the research they did was not from official YouTube channels nor the official websites for the archives, that they have not properly sourced any of the images or the footage that they found. And you have to start back from square one. So I've never seen a situation where anybody has saved money by leaving us to the end to come in.
Yeah.
And we come in and out too. It isn't, I mean, I have worked on things that were consistently every week for a year. There's something on Netflix right now, the three-part American Murder, Gabby Petito film, that doc series that I worked on. That literally was weekly for 1 year. But mostly I come in and out as needed. I'll start at the beginning, but it maybe I'll work 6 weeks and then I don't work for 6 weeks. And then I may come back for 2 weeks and then I may, go on hiatus again for weeks. So there's a lot of in and out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really important to know when
Yeah.
creating the budgets. And again, we'll
Yeah.
get back to, I do want to spend some time with budgets because that's an important element. But
Sure.
let's talk about when you first come on. And let's assume it's a little bit towards the beginning.
Yeah.
What are the conversations with the director like? What are the kinds of questions that you ask in terms of how you can shape the story and the
Yeah.
concept?
Yeah. Well, if it's archivally heavy, which is a lot of the productions on which I've worked, we literally just start, creating their visual needs list together, and they add onto it as much as they need to. And we create usually Google Doc that they add everything onto, and that I can consult with all the time, and then get in preview screeners and things like that. And a lot of times, fortunately, on official YouTube channels, I've been able to find screeners that have the archives embedded time code that I can download for free for them.
Yeah, but beyond the list of visual things,
Yeah.
do they talk about like the story and the themes and stuff
Yeah.
like that so that you
Yeah.
might be able to, I mean, are there occasions where you
Yeah.
come up with visual ideas that actually shape it, or you find some material that actually changes,
Yes.
the direction of a story,
Yes.
maybe?
Like they need us to get them from point A to point C
Yeah.
and everything in between. And there is a lot of time with Last Call series by Story Syndicate and Anthony Corona. Uh, Very, very archivally heavy, and showing a gay life in New York City in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in particular. And so I did a lot of research on films that were experimental, that were made in the meatpacking district from experimental filmmakers showing meatpacking, and which was such a strong uh, part of the gay culture in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And those were really added, I thought, some real nuance and depth and feeling. So those things I would present, and maybe the filmmakers had thought to ask me to, oh yeah, get some experimental filmmaker stuff and people that were just filming the meatpacking district at that time and things like that. So, and also doing a lot of the television network news researcher on that project in particular. What was so stunning about that is, I was doing a lot of research on, crimes against gay people during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and particularly, violent and homophobic crimes. And there was a few NBC News segments about violence against gays that I don't know what they call it. I'm losing it right now, but the intro card that is strictly for the news bureau that we don't see watching television. But these cards would say faggots get beat up,
Mm.
things like that. Homos, uh, you know, uh, homos killed in, raid. I mean, it was that alone too is just it's unbelievable the stuff that you come across doing what we do.
Yeah. When you're researching and trying to find images of, I mean, this is a great example of New York City in the 70s.
Yeah.
There's so many documentaries that use that kind of imagery. How do you go about digging up new stuff that hasn't been seen before? Where do you go
Uh,
to find that?
yeah, I mean, like for Last Call, I went a lot to the gay, lesbian, trans gender center on West 13th Street. And they had an enormous amount of public access cable materials that were unbelievable, really something. And those were extremely, extremely helpful. And a lot of them were also filmed in the bars where this particular serial killer had been picking up his victims in New York City. So we had that. And then also access to films through the Anti-Violence Project as well. And those kind of organizations had incredible materials that would not very well known, and then Gay Cable USA had incredible stuff, and that's stored at NYU.
Right. Well,
And
let's go back up. Let's go back a step. I mean, how do you even know to
yeah,
look at those places? You
Yeah,
know you have to get these kinds of images. How do you even find those organizations that will have that material? Because that's not your usual go-to sources.
right. Well, at this point, I've had a lot of experience. So for me, I knew I was going to those sources. But basically, I would start with just doing like a Bing or in a Google search and just getting ideas from that and plugging in what I need to find specifically for my clients. And then usually what's returned is things that really jar your memory and make you think like, yeah, I have to look into that. Or I'll go to like NYU Books Library where I'm an alumni and I'll do LexisNexis research. I will use their computers for the Fails library and the Tamament library, which also have some incredible private, independent film and photo collections that are really worth getting to know. Um, and just using LexisNexis will give me great ideas. And because they'll give me great ideas about what affiliate news stations might have materials that the major news stations may not have. And then also going to newspapers and also small newspapers. Like the serial killer in Lost Call, he resided in Staten Island. So I started to research the Staten Island newspapers out there, and indeed they had a lot of great photographs and headlines and great interviews with the team of detectives that were on this case and looking for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to spread, far and wide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and time is our friend. So, like I said, when someone has a serious archival topic and they have put aside in their budget 7 to 10 days, and it's over 75% an archival project that just simply is never going to be enough to mine what's out there. That's not enough time for us. Story Syndicate, Firelight Films, Submarine Films, who I'm working with now, they know it's like at least a year to do it properly, you know.
but a year
And
off and on.
well, sometimes, and like I said, for Netflix, because it was well budgeted, I was
Yeah.
able to be literally a weekly project for the Gabby Petito 3-part series. But yes, off and on, definitely. And you just have the time to think. You need time to think. And the filmmakers and the producers need time to think too. And sometimes I bring in things that makes them think of, oh, I never thought of that. Maybe we should explore that more.
Yeah.
And it could change the story or the edit a little bit. And that happened on the Lorraine a few times. And it took like a different turn.
So many filmmakers, as go into making their films
Yeah.
without having a budget in place. I mean, with having funding in place.
Yeah.
So what would be like the minimum they should budget for when they're not, one of these big companies like Jigsaw, when they're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
themselves, and they, are going to be working on a low budget.
Yeah. Well, the lowest tier of rights that you can get for a film that you want to be seen, and that's just not for specifically an educational setting only, is film festivals worldwide. And so, dependent on your topic and how many minutes of archival you think you're going to use. I mean, Sheila and Maddie, I welcome you piping in too.
Yeah.
Boy, I'd say like a minimum of $50,000 should be put aside. That would cover salary, but also screeners, also rights for film festivals. Um, but for Attica, the archival budget was over $150,000.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
just gives you because it was a Showtime production, and it just gave us the ability to like go everywhere and anywhere to find stuff, and including upstate New York television stations and things like that. And, just having that freedom of time, because we started on Attica 2 months before COVID kicked in. So, and worked on it for a year and a half straight.
Sheila, was that you weighing in?
Yeah,
Go for it.
I've done some budgets actually for entire films, and the one thing that people forgot about the archive, and then they always assume they can fair use things, and you can't.
Yes, that's
And,
a great point to bring
and
up.
then
How many times we talk to people, and it's just like, well, planning to fair use everything.
yeah,
And
and
it's like, well, good luck with that. You're not going to be, because you're getting screeners that have the watermark right in the middle, and
yeah.
a lot of people are naive about how this works.
Can I also add that
Or,
we have different layers of rights, like extremely expensive to inexpensive. So I often will divide the amount of footage that's projected by the type of costs that, very high, medium, and low. And then within that, you also have to budget the transfer costs,
yeah,
like as Rosemary, as you know, Iron Mountain, where stuff is stored, you have to budget that. I,
yeah.
I tell folks you have to budget even for the pencils and paper and pens and everything. All of that stuff has to be um, considered, because they forget, and then that's when, the budget goes over. So sorry.
Yeah, I've noticed, like a lot of people forget to budget for screeners.
Yeah.
And if it's an archivally heavy project, I would say $5,000 for screeners should be put aside. This is not to say like all of that will be used up, or if you're getting film festival rights and you're not doing a theatrical release, that $50,000 will be needed for everything. But I think it's a minimum to start with. I do.
How much difference in cost if you wanted, in perpetuity worldwide versus just for
It's
festivals?
significant difference. Yeah. Um, which is why with Submarine, we're doing film festivals worldwide 1 year first for most things. Because the difference between film festivals, can be $40 per second, $50 per second, and a lot of archives have a 30-second minimum accumulatively. And if you can't hit that 30 seconds, you're still charged for that 30 seconds. So I always try to get them to go down to 15 seconds if I know they're not going to do 30-second minimums. But theatrical, okay, so that's 40, 50. That could go up to 180 per second, depending on if it's network news footage uh, or stock footage. Theatrical, it would go up significantly.
Yeah. Maddie makes a great point in the chat that there's this false belief that if it's online, it's free.
Yes.
And,
Thank you, Maddie.
I know so many filmmakers who just pull their clips from YouTube and
Yeah,
don't consider, the cost of, or
yeah.
or even how to follow up that you might need to actually get permission to use it. Even,
Yeah, definitely. You're taking a huge legal risk if you don't. And also, if you want to enter into festivals and you haven't shown that you've gotten permission, you're not getting in that festival.
yeah,
That's all there is to it. They will not risk and take you on to a festival of merit. It's just not going to happen. So because you're filling in paperwork about everything you've licensed.
yeah. You mentioned LexisNexis before. First of all, how much does it cost to subscribe to it?
Oh, of course, that's why we have to go to museums, libraries to use it. I think it's $120,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
But can anybody go to a library and use it?
if the library has it, absolutely. Your alumni library has it, absolutely. Yes,
So a lot of universities have it. New York, like
yes.
public
Universities
libraries
and
might have it.
colleges tend to have it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm lucky. I live literally just a few blocks from NYU, where I'm an alumni. I just have to make an appointment at, like, if I want to go into NYU during the week, I have to just say on a Monday, I'd like to come in on this day and this
Yeah.
day.
Wow.
Yeah.
For 120,000 a year, you might as well enroll in NYU,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
save money.
So I'm very
Um,
happy that way.
what other databases do you use or recommend besides
Sure.
LexisNexis?
Um,
LexisNexis?
and again, Maddie and Sheila, chime in, but for newcomers and people that are just getting their footing, it would be great to check out footage.net, which is a great website for starting to begin to find your footing with a topic. And it'll bring back to you what they have in the various decades for a topic and who is the proper source for that topic. And then you're able to find the URLs. Yeah, that's great. No, Maddie, thank you. The URLs to that footage. And a lot of the archives now, like Global ImageWorks and efootage.com, which are great, and they have great materials. They are allowing people to download their official time-coded screeners for free. So that's great. And there's another place I love to use that I used a lot on last call. It's a archive called CONUS, CONUS. And that has all Midwestern television stations stories. And that's where a lot of the stuff I got for last call came from as well. And their rates are fantastic. And they will negotiate with you or they will work with you. The network news bureaus are wonderful, and the people that work for them are great. But, they're very constricted about how much negotiating they can do. And they're priced the highest, as you can imagine.
Have you ever worked on a film where the director asked you to come up with sort of generic home movies? I know filmmakers like Alan
Sure.
Berliner and Jay Rosenblatt, have said that
Sure.
they go to like markets or fairs or something, where,
Yeah, that's so
some random
wonderful.
family is selling their entire collection of super
Yeah,
great home
no,
movies.
that's so wonderful. Yes,
Where would you
there's
look?
great home movies on Pond 5 and Shutterstock. There's wonderful home movie footage there. Also on Bridgman Images, that's wonderful footage, stock footage, home movie footage. There's the Center for Home Movies in the Midwest. That's very good. Um, there are, let me think, I'm just trying to think because I love finding home movies. They're really fantastic. Oh, Northeast Historic Film Center, which is in Maine, and they have some incredible New England-based television footage, television reports, but also home movies and great stock footage and newsreels from various decades. So yeah, there's a few places that they do that. They do that really well.
Yeah.
But Pot Five has always not ever disappointed me for finding home movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Prellinger's in the chat. I mean, thanks, folks. The recommendations in the chat are going they're on fire. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and
Um,
Freilinger really is wonderful. I think that was the first archive I ever visited to do research was Rick Prelinger's archive when it used to be on 14th Street near me.
yeah. So Rosemary, how do you know when you're looking at this footage and you come on something, you love that it hasn't been used in other documentaries? That this is kind of new. Um, or it hasn't been used in many documentaries. Is there
Yeah.
any kind of way of noting that, or you just, assume that because it's so deep into some archive that people.
Yeah, like for instance, for Attica, I went out with the co-director out to both CBS and NBC's archives. And we were looking at footage that was on film, which hadn't been aired since it was aired back in 71. So this footage was just in storage and forgotten about, and just some amazing finds, especially with NBC. NBC had a lot of footage from the upstate affiliates, who I grew to find out had thrown away every single bit of film they'd had from 1971 and the Attica prison riot.
Wow.
So NBC's warehouse, had it, and that was really wonderful. So, it used to be when I first started, I think maybe some people still do this, but there's sometimes that if you ask a representative, like, I'm working on this topic, I have mined your website and your official YouTube channel. I've done everything I do to like do research before I come to you. I cannot find XYZ. Then sometimes they'll send you packages of stuff from the time you're needing footage. And sometimes you get like the baby with the bathwater. You get like things that are really not relevant to what you need, but you have to dig through it and you can then find what you need in that. And that was done a lot more when I first started. I noticed that people were, sending like these packages of particular things on World War II or World War I or this, and they were all the same. And I would notice them in documentaries on, television that, oh, wow, that shot of like the Vietnam War. Boy, how many times we have to see that shot. And there's just so much more to dig through in the National Archives and Library of Congress and, various other libraries and archives, which when we are given the time again, the freedom of time, we can find those different shots that have probably been shelved for a long time and forgotten.
So, what is the most unusual job you've had as a researcher? That you just like went like, are you kidding? Um,
Oh my God. Yeah, I think the first 10 years I was working, there was this guy that was insisting there was footage of the Triangle shirt factory fire in
uh-huh.
Washington Square Park. Insisted that he had seen footage of that live, film footage. And I said, what you've seen are recreations for silent films or films and, other things. And he's like, no, 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 no. I have seen footage of that happening. And I said, there was nobody running around at the time of the Triangle fire with cameras. These things were just not done back then. People were not running around with
Oh,
like
but there's
big
AI
cameras.
now, Rosemary. Generative AI, watch out.
Oh my God. And, there was a lot of photographs though. And I said, I can absolutely bring you in a lot of incredibly graphic photographs of that terrible day, but film,
Yeah.
no.
Well, do you
And
worry
so he was like, really, like, you don't know what you're doing,
this brings
basically.
up the whole idea though of AI being used archivally,
Yeah.
to create video of
Yes.
scenes that, well before cameras were invented. Um, do you worry about,
Oh,
the line
absolutely.
between what's, true and what's been
Oh,
recreated? And
absolutely. I've already seen very sophisticated friends fall for AI videos. There's somebody in particular who has an Instagram page and a YouTube channel that does pretty incredible AI uh, videos of priests and pastors and churches coming down church steps with the Bible and hitting ice people over the head. They really look real and they're not. you know. And his philosophy is he's helping people to release their tension about everything that's going on in our country. And people are posting that all over the place. And I've had friends, I had to tell them, take that down. That's AI. He's an AI person.
Have you worked with a director in recent years who wanted to use AI in a way that you didn't think was right?
Had a problem with and I loved the two filmmakers on the Gabby Petito series, but they used it a couple of times to have her voice reading her diary, which the reason I got involved with that series is that her family was very heavily involved with the series, and they had not been involved with any other documentaries made about her, Gabby Petito. So they had given us all of their home movies, everything, which was incredible. Well, there was some in the home movies, Gabby talking with her parents and her friends and things like that. And they did AI a couple of sentences here and there of her reading from her actual diary, which they also had handed over. I just felt that was not necessary,
Yeah.
and me and other people on the production said, don't do that. But they wanted to do it. We couldn't talk them out of it. So
What about AI for research though? Using ChatGPT to, kind of get you started on possible sources or approaches to archival. Have you ever done that, or do you fiercely
I
not recommend it?
I have not been doing that unless it's absolutely I have exhausted every other way of doing the research. And yeah, I just am not comfortable with it. Uh, so when I'm feeling desperate, I might do that, but I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah. Um, Getting back to when we were doing budgets and people not necessarily having the money to pay for a researcher from the start. I do want to add that you do consulting, Rosemary, as well. And do you want to talk a little bit about, by the way, I'm going to put your contact info in the chat.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
so do you want to talk about how you might work as a consultant and what you can do with filmmakers who are just getting started trying to think this through? Or as you said, there's been a number of projects that their funding got taken away
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
budgets are now funding is so hard to get now.
yes. There's been a few projects where do have a dedicated researcher. They're usually very good, but they might be young and kind of new to the field, and I will help guide them to where they'll be able to find more materials. And also, if they're going down to DC, to do Library of Congress or National Archives research, who to talk to and who to, make an appointment with and how to use those archives and things like that. I've worked on Matt Wolf's documentary Teenage, which is 95% archival. And I oversaw the researchers overseas in Germany and France and Great Britain. And so I'll do that too, is I'll be basically guiding them as to what research the project needs and where I think they should go. And then also, of course, they experience and they often know exactly where to go, but we'll get into discussions and, help each other think of other places that they could, visit for archives. Yeah. So I haven't done that much, but I do enjoy doing that.
And the good thing is you can work worldwide because so
Yeah,
your work is not
exactly.
in person. So,
Exactly.
um, folks, it's getting very close to the last half hour. So, if you have a question for Rosemary, use the raised hand function, and I will call on you in the order that I see them in just a few minutes. So, in these few minutes, I'm just going to have some fun and ask you things like what what archival documentaries have you seen recently that you've been really impressed by? Not of your own. Um,
Okay. Um, because that's pretty, I mean, that's like I just watch documentaries so much. Well, one thing, can I start first with what I'm not impressed by?
sure, absolutely, of course.
The plethora of true crime documentaries that,
Okay.
are occupying, like Netflix has really high-end documentaries that they really put a lot of money behind and a lot of encouragement and support behind. And then they'll have like true crime documentaries that are really pretty sloppily made and don't even have a credit for archival researcher on them, even though there's a ton of like television news reports and TikTok, videos of people commenting on a case or things like that. Like they just, their credits have absolutely nobody listed that found all of that stuff. And it makes you wonder, like, what is that about? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So, but they're often, those tend to be, pretty surface level. And I just, hate for people to think that's what documentaries are.
Yeah, I loved your reaction, by the way, when you were saying that you were so furious your earrings were like brushing against your cheek.
Yeah, that's not. But I just rewatched this week Stolen Youth,
Hmm.
the three-part series that's on Hulu, the Larry Ray case. That to me is like a gold standard for a true crime documentary series. And it's Zachary, and how do you pronounce his last name, Doug? It's Heiserling. He's great. He's a great filmmaker. Anyway, that's a powerful, powerful three-part documentary I recommend to people.
Uh-huh.
And
Others that made you like jealous or envious or
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'll see, and I wish I could have worked on. Um, I did love Laura Poitras's Seymour Hersh
Mhm.
documentary um, that was out, and I saw that at the New York Film Festival, and I think it's on Netflix right now. That's great. It's a wonderful documentary, incredible archival research. And I felt jealous seeing
Yeah.
that film.
Folks, if you have recommendations of archival heavy films that you loved, put it in the chat, recommend them in the chat. It's a reminder that this is being recorded for the D-Word's YouTube channel, and the recording should be up in the next few days. But what we do is also take like highlights from the chat, some of the best. Uh, I'll tell you a secret. We use ChatGPT to take some of the best highlights from the chat. We try to attribute it to the person who says it, if we can. Um, and we put that in the description of the YouTube video. So it'll be like chock full of information. We'll try and put down some of the resources that have been mentioned, particularly in the chat as well as what Rosemary's saying.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I think I'm going to start calling on hands up. Max, you are the first, an archival person yourself.
Hey guys, yeah, working on a PBS film. It's my first time doing archives, and my question is about tracking down the source of things. So, for example, I've got one special problem child in my film. We've got a low resolution JPEG of a postcard from 1910 that was only ever seen once in an eBay listing, and somebody grabbed the screen grab of it.
Yeah.
I've got some information from the image about the publishing company that no longer exists. Do not have an original source of that image. And I'm just wondering, like, if you could share some perspective on, if you've got an image that a really important image that you're looking to seek a source on, seek the maker, how would you recommend thinking about that and approaching that process?
Well, it sounds like your situation is very no risk to low risk to use. And you've done your due diligence looking for the sources and just make sure that you keep that like in a folder, on your desktop, that you did make attempts to find out about who took this image or who painted this image or something like that. And that will be when you're going through the end of the final locking the picture, and the fair use lawyer is on the Zoom call with you and everybody else. You're going to say, you're going to be writing it on the spreadsheet. These are the attempts I made to find out who this is. But the date of what you found is, to me, it's public domain because it's over 70 years now. So I don't think you need to worry. I think that's low risk to no risk.
And if I can just tag that with because I figured it was probably fair use, and I'm tracking the
Sure.
my attempts to figure out where it comes from.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of it's not a cinema quality image; it's a tiny little image, and it would be wonderful to find a copy of this postcard
Have you looked
somewhere.
on eBay?
I have. I've been watching it like a hawk. Um, but I
That's
mean, you
insane.
mentioned like specialty archives for things like home movies. Is it possible to, find specialty archives for postcards, Americana, ephemera, things like that?
eBay is that for me and other auction places online. I would also look, because there's everything out there in the world. There are people that their whole entire business is postcards. And I can't think of the name of one right now, but I've certainly had postcards for productions from people that have online stores. And if you could reach out to them, maybe they could look for you. In the meantime, I don't know if there's some sort of software that could boost the quality of the image that you found. Could ask the assistant editor and the editor if they know of anything that might be able to boost this image. Sometimes they can do that.
Okay, thanks, Max.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Judy, by the way, in the chat, duly noted about Claude, just so you know. Lucia, can you come on camera to ask your question? Great.
Hi,
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm doing the research and licensing for a very archival heavy feature, and I'm wondering if you could talk about the process of tracking each individual piece of media from the timeline, especially when the editor has multiple tracks, there's nested sequences that aren't always preserved in an EDL or an XML. So I had the editor send me an XML and I'm looking at it in DaVinci, and a lot of the files are not there. And
Uh,
so I'm just wondering if you could talk a bit about your workflow, because right now I'm kind of just inputting them into Excel manually and just like asking the editor, like, which file is this? And that doesn't
oh
seem to be the
boy.
most sustainable
Yeah. Yeah.
workflow. So I'm just wondering if you talk about like how you are literally like tracking the media from the timeline, what you're asking the editor for, and how you're able to input that into whatever spreadsheet or system you use, and then how you continuously update that as the
Yeah.
content is updating.
Yeah. I usually start out working with the assistant editor, and we create like Google spreadsheets where everything is given like a specific AD code for photos, headlines, articles, footage. And then we include like, the URL to the original source and the description of what the image is or the footage is. And then from there, then that gets into getting into the archival cue sheet that the editor and the assistant editor have created, that has taken all of the stuff we need to have which is when we're licensing, we need those specific ID codes, we need those URLs to get to, the specific source that we found. And that's how it's been working for me on several projects, was starting out first with a Google spreadsheet because it's so user-friendly. And I don't envy you because it sounds like you got thrown into the deep end of the pool.
We all feel for you, Lucia.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
using a
thank you.
format that's usually used just at the end after like the user-friendly Google spreadsheet has been used, or the Airtable.
Yeah,
Uh,
we have a spreadsheet that has almost everything labeled with the URL and the original source and everything.
okay, is that more helpful to you? Do you think you could say to them, I'm putting in all of my changes, updates,
Yeah,
removing obsolete, material? Would that be more helpful to you to do that?
yeah, I've actually like sort of built something like in
That's
AI to
great.
be able to like take basically like the XML, open it in DaVinci, make it into a CSV, and then have like Visual Studio Code basically put the CSV into an Excel sheet. But the XML didn't preserve every single file.
Oh,
So I don't know if it's maybe just nested sequences. So I basically, I guess you're always working on projects with an assistant editor who's like able to do this. So you're not maybe directly asking the editor for a specific file. Basically, are you usually asking for like an EDL or an XML, or is the assistant editor just handling this for you?
yeah, I mean, I'm usually working with the assistant editor um, and sometimes the editor, but mostly the assistant editor, and then eventually working with the EDL and then updating that as
Okay.
well with them. But I mean, that's one thing is, it's very lucky when you have a production that has an assistant editor that's really good at this, because otherwise, when we get overly involved with these things, it can just eat up so much time and take away from our ability to do the research. For Gabby Petito which was a project I absolutely loved. Their assistant editor did not upload everything to the spreadsheets, and I had to spend like 2.5 hours per day doing all that and labeling it with their database systems, labels that they had created for footage, photos, headlines, blah blah. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel for you because it's, labor intensive. I can tell
Yeah,
how
Rosemary,
much
is
it's
this
going into.
something, Lucia, Rosemary, is this something you could actually talk to the director about from the beginning, or early on, that this is what
I
you
did, and
need and
even though
save
they
you
had
all
a
the time?
healthy budget, they had to fly out to the various places that Gabby Petito had been with her uh, boyfriend, Brian Laundrie. So the budget was getting eaten up with a lot of travel. And they're also traveling with the family as well. And that was like a group of about 7 or 8 people sometimes. And
Yeah.
no, they said, we're really sorry. We can't afford you to have somebody
Yeah, it
do
just
that
seems like a
stuff.
good thing to communicate, because I can see a director
Oh,
getting
yeah.
upset later that, oh, I didn't pay you to spend 2.5 hours putting,
Oh,
stuff
well,
on.
they do, and they were very aware. It's just that
Yeah.
I think they just felt like really could not do anything about it. Like there was
Okay.
just, they felt like there was no other option.
Okay.
Is there anybody, Lucia, that can help, that you can talk to and get help?
Um, yeah, I have someone I used to work with that could probably help me. I was just kind of more wondering like what like the editor is able to deliver that preserves like every single file that can import into a spreadsheet easily. Um,
Yeah. Oh, boy. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
because
I
I
mean,
don't
it
want to have
sounds
to.
like you're really on top of it. That's for sure. They're very
Okay.
lucky.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm good at my job. It's just a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. I feel you.
Yeah.
Thank,
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you for your advice. You can move on now.
All right.
Okay. Alex, you are up.
Hi, thanks, Rosemary. I would love to hire you weekly for a year. However, that's probably not going to happen. I'm working on a partially a biopic on Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld. So he in Berlin in 1868 to 1935. Um, and as we're in post-production now, and I'm gathering archival myself, and that's fine. I'm wondering, you talked about a spreadsheet. I'm wondering, like, eventually, soonly want to bring on archival producer, researcher. Like right now, we have, you know, the link and the image pops up and description and legal status. But I'm wondering if you have like specifics of what we should be for each item tracking in terms of if and when we pass it off, like we're not missing some obvious thing to have in the spreadsheet.
No, it sounds like you're doing it. It's you're putting in the ID code specifically for that image or footage or what you're working with, and you're getting a URL to your original source. Sometimes I add a column where it's, the person that you'll be doing your licensing with, their email and phone number, um, description of what the image is. Is it black and white? Is it color? Um, yeah, make sure you have a good description, or you can cut and paste the description off of where you found it.
Mhm.
And I'm just kind of like, I'm thinking of the current
Yeah.
spreadsheet I'm working
Yeah.
with right now. We're going down
Second nature.
columns.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's up for the assistant editor or editor. They're going to be putting in the ins and outs where this will be end up and used. Um, Photo archives are not going to ask you for the ins and outs. They're just going to ask you for the ID code of their photo, and they're going to license it to you in higher res if that's necessary. If it's not high enough res, through the archive already, you'll have to ask to license it in a higher res. Sometimes it is high res already online, though. You're just going to do the honor system of licensing it properly. That's all. Um, no, I think you've covered everything. Yeah, I
Great.
mean, if Maddie and Sheila can think of anything Alex is missing, I think it sounds
Yeah.
like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Doing my best.
Yeah.
Sheila's nodding, so yeah.
Yay.
Good job.
Yeah, no, good job. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. AK, hey.
Hey.
Hello, hello. Thank you. Today's session's been awesome. I met Kevin when he screened One-on-One in San Francisco and loved
Oh,
parts of that film, especially there was a quote where I'm like, oh my God, can I get that for mine? From, I think it was John recognizing Yoko's impact on him becoming a feminist.
yeah,
This short little bit was just so
I
awesome.
know.
I'm working on a personal documentary about the growing community of women choosing to be solo mothers by choice. And there's three threads: spiritual, scientific, and social. And for the social, there's a lot of social media stuff I found to add comedic relief.
Yes, yeah.
And so I have been sort of keeping track of the creator, the account, and sort of like the video. And I'm assuming like for that, I guess I just reach out to the individuals.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely do that.
mhm.
And, do that at least 3 or 4 times if they don't answer you. And you just have to make sure you keep a record of the time
Right.
you outreached and proof of your outreach.
Oh, right. Proof of outreach. And then I was wondering, not so much fair use, but like I'm commenting on some of these, you know what I mean? And so are other women
Yeah.
who are in the doc, so like commenting and reacting to what was made and almost
Yeah.
sometimes thanking the creator. right? For like
Yeah,
putting into
Gabby
words what we
Petito,
think.
we had a woman that I outreached to 3 or 4 times who
Mhm.
is a yoga instructor, a very high-end yoga instructor, but she also is like a person has a TikTok channel where she comments on crimes.
Mm.
And she's really good at it. She's really one of those people, because Gabby Petito case was also very helped by these true crime sleuths, and
Mhm.
finding the van, finding her body, all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
we used quite a few YouTubers and TikTokers in the film. Well, this one person I wrote to on TikTok probably 3 times, and then I found her yoga website, wrote to her twice that way, kept everything, never heard from her, left her
Mm.
a message, texted her, never heard from her. Well, she came back when she watched it on TV and she wanted like $30,000 for her 3-second
Wow.
comment. And it eventually went away, but I mean, it was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had all the proof that we'd contacted her many times, so it went nowhere.
So
But
at that point, it's okay to then use with
well,
credit?
our fair use lawyer dealt with her directly and was
Sure,
able
sure.
to present that we contacted you several times over the last 4 months trying to
Mhm.
get your permission to use
And
this.
if in rare cases, if somebody said that this has happened to them, so I'm foreseeing this, if it happens to me, they say yes, they acknowledge and say, yes, you can use it. And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, this is what I have to offer in terms of monetary value. And they're like, okay. And then I keep reaching out. I'm like, how do you want me to send you this money? And I don't hear back.
Oh, that's not your fault. No, I
Yeah.
mean, that's
So
great
like
you're
the
making the
yes was
effort. Yeah.
acceptable unless it was retracted, which it never was.
Yeah. No, that's really great that you're trying to, put a ribbon on that and just,
Yeah.
move on. That's great. Yeah. There was
Okay.
a couple of people that were professional photographers that did videos relating to the Gabby Petito case. We did pay them
Mhm.
a minimum thing
Sure.
because they asked for it.
Yeah.
Most people were just like, oh no, I'd love it. I'd love it if you included me and just put my name in the credits. And this is how I
Mm.
want it to
That's
be
nice. Yeah.
said. And yeah, so
Okay.
yeah.
Kevin said he'd connect me to the estate, but he never got back to me. So I might reach out to you for the Yoko
Oh,
Ono.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, AK. Uh, is it Priska? Am I
Yes,
pronouncing it right?
Priska.
That's nice.
Yes. Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you. This has been super helpful. I'm finishing my first archival producing role in a feature film, and it's
Yeah.
on animation on a studio in the 50s. So my question is mainly about trying to find the owner of like old photographs that was photographed by like this corporation called United Press Photo, but that doesn't exist anymore. And so then I try to find who
Yeah.
does own it, and then they don't respond. Or I'm trying to find another photo that I think is owned by Warner Brothers, and then they say we don't own it, but MGM might. And then MGM says, but Warner Brothers, we don't own it. Warner Brothers must.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So
I'm
I
going through
guess
something
like
like that right now too. Yeah.
right, there's all this like happening in the industry of buying, and it's very
Yes.
confusing. But I guess so. My question is when we're looking at these old photographs and trying to find who might own photos of like artists, but then also looking at who might own other types of footage, and it seems to be bought by different organizations. How far do we go? And maybe that's like when we take it to our fair use lawyer and say like this is the tracking of how I've tried to find it. But
I always do
when do
like
you
3 or 4 times minimally,
okay.
really. Yeah. I feel like the fair use lawyer feels a lot better, if you've really tried 3 or 4 times through various
Okay.
avenues. Yeah. And also, you can get in touch with the Library of Congress and
Hmm.
see if anything is under copyright there. And there's
Hmm.
also a great copyright tracker who lives in near DC. His name is Elias Savada. And SAVADA. He has a website, and he will look for copyright and to see if something is still copyright or if it's in the public
Mhm.
domain. And
Okay.
he's usually $400 for a day, but
Mhm.
it's very worth it if you gave him a lot of things to do
Yeah.
in one day. Um, that might be worth it, but I think it'd be worth also asking the Library of Congress for some guidance.
Okay. And
Yeah.
have people do you
Have you done also
reach out?
Google image search to see if it matches anywhere?
Yeah, and a lot
Yeah,
of it
that's
is like
good.
these
Well, that's a
animation
great
nerd
thing.
blogs posting,
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like, and no
understand.
one
I
knows.
understand. Nobody and a lot of people just don't think to credit, unfortunately. You could
Yeah.
write to the person that wrote the blog, though. You could write to
Hmm.
them and ask them, like, could you tell me like where you found this?
Hmm.
Sometimes that pans out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I think, thank you. And my one last thing, I just want to from what you said, you just need time. And
Yeah,
I've noticed that with all of these emails of trying to track things down, it's been a matter of months whenever I've been finally hearing back from an archive
it
and
can
getting
be.
an answer
Yeah,
and then back and
yeah,
forth. So I just wanted to thank you for saying that
yeah.
and
I
reiterate that it's a
I
lot.
worked on a project 2 years ago for Stanley Nelson where the Library of Congress did have this person as the head of the estate for a very specific photographer for which there was really important photos that we were using that I found at the New York Historical Society. But they said, you have to get permission from this person.
Mm.
And he took 4 months to write back. Thankfully, I was still working on the thing. Otherwise, that was going to get fair use, I'm sure,
Mm.
because New York Historical Society was not allowed to license them. They were just holding them for research
Mhm.
purposes. And but he took 4 months to write back, and it all worked out. And we did pay him a, honorarium for using them, and we got the proper credit he wanted, and all of that. But a lot of people just, they're not good about checking their emails and
Yeah.
texts or letters or anything, So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
sure. Good
Thanks,
luck.
Priska. Rosemary, I just want to clarify that
Sure.
when you consult, I mean, you do things like we'll do like an hour-long call where they can
Sure.
ask you very specific questions about their production, much like Priska did, and
Yes.
Alex. So,
Sure.
yeah. Okay, we have two more questions on the board, Joanne and then Simon.
Hi, Rosemary. This has
Hi,
been
how are you?
good. Thank you. This has been very helpful. When I was
Yeah.
trying to find footage for my film, I went to garage sales in the
Yeah.
town
Awesome.
that the story took place, and I went
Awesome.
to estate sales, and I looked
Fantastic.
around stuff that people had that they were just getting rid of, and I didn't find much, but I found the people who knew the people
That's
from the garage
great.
sales. Have you ever done that?
I have bought photographs out at vintage photo places in Brooklyn and here in Manhattan and things like that. Um, I have not done quite what you've done, though. No,
I
because
would,
I think I was working on things where everybody would be not here. They would not be around anymore. I'll deal then with the historical society, the public library. That's in that area, things like that.
yeah,
I'll go that way.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
found it
great
at
though.
one,
You're doing that. That's awesome.
yeah, one garage sale. I found somebody who had gone to high school with somebody who knew one of the people who was in my film,
Wow,
and
that's amazing.
they got in contact with that person so that I could get in contact with that person. It turned out that they had home movies that I could
My
use.
God, that's
So
amazing.
it was just a matter of going and talking to people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been lucky, working on a few documentaries where if the family is involved with the story, that they've been extremely generous handing over their home movies and their photos. And, that's always adds such an incredible layer to a film.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Joanne. Okay, Nancy, I saw you raised your hand as well. You will be the last person. Well, Simon first, then Nancy. But we can't take questions after that because we're getting close to the end of our time.
Hi.
Okay, so thanks for all the useful information. I've got a question. So I'm shortly going to be looking for footage from the conflict in Ukraine, specifically from the first few weeks when there was a massive exodus of refugees.
Sure.
So I would imagine that there would have been a lot of people filming this on mobiles and media people.
Sure.
So tips, what should I be doing trying to find this stuff?
I would, Google or even use, Chat. I realize I'm going to have to be more open to things like that. But I would say, is there a collective website, like in the United States, we have one called ProPublica, where people will post their cell phone footage of specific conflicts. And so there must be something overseas, probably many things overseas where people are doing that. And so they're really well organized, and you can find what you need on specific dates that you need. And I would go on official YouTube channels for network news, media outlets looking for things as well. But also YouTube would have official YouTube channels for the Ukraine, the Ukraine's television networks. They have official YouTube channels, and so I would deal with them because if you want to license the footage, they're the people to do it with, and they would provide how you get in touch with them to do that. And I would look, see if Pod5 has some contemporary footage as well. They're not as much doing that, but they're doing more of that. So I would check Pod5 definitely to see if people are posting. I bet they are. I would do that definitely. But I would look for the consortiums of people where they are uploading their cell phone footage, which is the raw footage, and in which, that would be really amazing if you could get your hands on that.
Thanks, Simon.
This is Erica. I just want to step in because Simon, I would recommend looking at saving the chat because Taras Spivak is an archival researcher
Fantastic.
in Kiev. I think he had to leave early, but definitely I think he put his contact information there, so you should get in touch with him.
I actually contacted him, but thanks for that.
There's another organization I would like to recommend becoming a member of too, is Focal International. They're based in London, but they are researchers from all over the world, are listed under their skills and services site. You can upload information about yourself and on their site so people can find you for work. But also they have a directory about where to find things. And it could be that you would be able to find materials you need through Focal, Focal International. It's about $130 a year for USD. I think in pounds it's 99.
Great.
Yeah, it's another community. It's a really good community.
Rosemary, are you okay about staying for a few more minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, of course.
Nancy, last question.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
This seems really interesting. I came late, unfortunately, but I'll watch the recording. So I'm working on a film about an elephant at the Bronx Zoo. You might have
Great.
heard of her, Happy, who had a legal case for her freedom to a sanctuary in Tennessee.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, they lost. And now I'm finishing the film this year. So last week I went again to this week, I went to the New York City Public Library picture collection.
Yes.
And I couldn't find, didn't have very much time, and I couldn't find. So a corporation, as I'm sure you know, is a legal person, and a ship is a legal person, and a river is a legal person, but an elephant is not a legal person. So I'm trying to find images of corporations, and all they could give me there was meetings. Meetings have people, so that wasn't really, I mean, I took a few pictures, but first of all, I'm wondering about what's the legality of using the images from there. Probably it's a fair use thing, but I was just wondering from your perspective. And also, if you were looking for like a photo that said corporation clearly, what would that,
And you're
what would that
talking
be?
about contemporary, like,
Yeah, like Citizens United
yes.
created the pathway for corporation as legal person.
Yeah.
Legal,
Well,
legal personhood.
NYPL always has a thing, rights and permissions at the bottom that I would recommend
Oh,
clicking on and reading. And it will tell you if you may use it, or it will tell you who you have to go to ask to use it.
oh, well, I actually went there. I went to so it was just the back of the print, which is just stamped. It doesn't say anything on the back of the print.
Oh, so you went to the library, you got
Yeah,
like a
I go to the
folder, and
library.
you were
Yeah, and I
looking through
open
the
the
folder.
folders
Well, they
and
can
yeah.
tell you though,
Oh, okay.
they have that in their database, and they can tell you
I see. So they
what
can
you
look
have
it
to
up and
do.
tell me
Yeah.
to
And
get the rights.
and hopefully they'll say it's just a generic stock,
Right,
like
right.
have you looked on Shutterstock, under images and stuff
Yeah, I
there?
haven't done that yet. I was like,
Yeah,
because
you could
sometimes they
probably
have some
buy a
very,
really good photo for like $39. And at least
right,
like you've got it, you paid for it. Nobody's gonna give you any trouble. I think
right,
it's a
right.
low risk what you're doing though, but I would go back to where you did your research on
Yes.
site. And if you got the name of that librarian, ask that person or write to, I think it's permissions at
Uh-huh.
nypl.org. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, because
yeah,
when you
they'll
use the
tell you.
scanner, it says something about, like that's not conferring copyright to you. When you can
Yes,
scan the
yeah,
images right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I just thought I would ask because other people might have used that. It's a good resource because it's got some funky imeges,
Yeah, of
and it can get
course.
you thinking about other things, but I didn't really
Yeah, no,
find what
that's
I
a
was
great
looking for.
idea.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention that this time I saw that there were postcards. They have boxes and boxes of catalog postcards.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if that's online, but it's also something I'm going to look at next week when I
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah, they
So
have
for
like
people that were
probably,
trying to do
as
that.
all archives do, 10%
Mhm.
of their collection is online. So you have
Right.
to mine what you can and then go to your representatives to help you further.
Go to the source. Like you go directly to DC
Yeah.
to find your research.
Thanks,
Okay.
Nancy.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Okay. Thanks.
Rosemary, I often want to just give the last word to the guest to if there's anything we didn't discuss that you might want to say, or are there maybe misconceptions that folks might have about the archival
Yeah, I think
researcher?
Maddie and Sheila will be happy that I'm reiterating when you use YouTube for your research, only use the official YouTube channels.
Right.
That's it. That's probably the biggest obstacle that we run into is places, directors and interns or, people that are new to the field. A lot of people don't understand. You have to be using the official YouTube channel in order for future proper licensing to be able to happen.
Right. And any other like final takeaways other than always have a spreadsheet that shows every attempt to communicate
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with someone.
Yeah, to try to think about if you can to afford yourself having the archival researcher come in at the start of your project.
Right.
Yeah.
Great point. Thank you, Rosemary. Rosemary is a really good friend, and we've been it's been a long time in coming to have you as a guest, and
Oh, this
we're
has been so
so
wonderful.
grateful.
Thank you all
Yeah.
so much.